Hello, I'm obviously not Brian, Leonard, or John. My name's Elayne Cross, and I am working with these guys. We are going across the state of Ohio because property taxes are just not a good deal. A little bit about myself. I was the vice chair of the county party in Portage County. I was on the Board of Elections in Portage County, and I did run against Dave Joyce last election cycle. Whether I run against Dave Joyce or not remains to be seen, depends on how much of this takes up my life, but I'm at God's direction, so that's where I'm at. It was because of my run against Dave Joyce for the U.S. Congress that I met these gentlemen, and when I heard them speaking in a small group, I knew I had found my people. Now, I'm going to start off with how did we get here with this property tax? When Columbus came and discovered America, and then the Pilgrims came and landed in Plymouth, they tried to follow Acts 2, where it said they had everything in common and they all worked together. Within 2 years, it utterly failed. That was America's experiment with communism. Utter failure. What they found is people are generally lazy and they want somebody else to do the work, and they don't want to do the work if it doesn't personally benefit them. So they reverted to personal responsibility and personal accountability. Same thing happened with property. When Ohio was first a territory, they established the fact that you could tax the property, the land, to help establish the government. When Ohio became a state in 1803, they expanded that and said, yes, you can tax the land, but we're going to rank the land based on its fertility. So if it was real fertile soil, you paid more, and if it was rocky or swampy, you paid less. It was put into our Constitution right from the beginning. It has been a contested issue right from the beginning. Let me tell you a story about King George. King George, who was part of the reason we had our revolution, basically owned all the land. And then he would give land to the lords. The lords were people who gave him favors or could raise an army or had family wealth. They got the land, and then they let serfs and people work the land, but they had to pay the lord a tax. Right? Then they taxed the land, and then they gave some of that portion to the king. And if the king said, hey, I need an army, the lord said, you're going to serve, you're going to serve, you're going to serve, we got to go help the king. Does that sound just a little familiar to how things are working now? We pay to the county distributes it to whoever, and they just keep coming back for more and more and more and more. Well, that's fine in 1803 when we don't have any other idea of how to do this, and we do need roads, and we want to create a government. And I'm not going to bash our history, but I'm going to say enough is enough. We have three general ways of taxing our people. I'm not opposed to taxes. I like the fact that I have roads. I like the fact that we have police. I like the fact that I can school my children, right? We have the sales tax, we have the income tax, and we have the property tax. Now there's some other taxes like the excise tax, the sin tax, the other things, but those are the three biggies, okay? That's a tricycle. We all stop using a tricycle when we're about 4 years old. Well, we are 200 years old, and I think it's time we get on a bicycle and learn how to balance and ride this government here in Ohio like adults. Okay, so we are for the full total elimination of all property tax. As you've heard, it's the most convoluted, confusing, and emotionally driven tax we have. Because if they put up a levy and you balk because 70% of our levies go to the schools, their immediate response is, oh, but we're going to have to cut busing. Oh, we're going to have to cut the sports team. Oh, we're going to have to, what does and this is me, what does the local football team have to do with reading and writing? In my opinion, recreation should probably be under Parks and Rec. Probably not under the schools. We can still have football. We can still have our $50,000 basketball court. We can still have whatever we want, but let's put that under Parks and Recreation, because right now the schools are paying for athletic director, all the equipment, all the grounds maintenance, the $50,000 turf they got to put on the field because you know the neighbor city got one, so we got to get one with our logo in the middle. All of that should be under Parks and Rec, in my opinion. That's for you cities to decide. From our perspective, the property tax has to end. We are just starting a new organization. We're pulling in different groups because there's lots of groups out there doing it. And our organization is called Axe Ohio Tax, because we just want to cut it in full. And I have little brochures here I'll pass out. The link to that website is in here. There's going to be lots of data, lots of information. We're going to break it down by county so that you're going to be able to go in there and look at the state data, which is called the CUP report. They put out the CUP report every year. The CUP report includes everything from how much money they get from property tax to how many administrators they have, and that's a real interesting thing to look at because the number of administrators per student has skyrocketed. How many superintendents, assistant to the assistant superintendents does your school need? Okay? The number for students and the number for teachers has pretty much stayed constant. Again, like everything else, if your number of students goes down, they don't want to cut their budget. And they make a big deal about, oh, we might have to lay off a teacher. Well, if you were graduating 800 students and now you're only graduating 400 students, maybe you should cut a few teachers. Okay, so we know there's waste, we know there's misuse, we know there's an essential service. We're not against essential services. We are wanting them to operate lean like we do as a family, and frankly, not take grandma's house because she can't afford it. You pay 30 years to buy a house and you think you own it, but you just rent. How many of you have to pay a tax on your car every year? You pay gas tax because you use your car, but do you have to write a check to your local government because you actually own a car? When do you pay tax on your car? When you buy it. That's it. And then if you use it, right? That's what we want. If you're using something, if you need something, then you pay a tax for it. Once I buy my home, and I'm not even opposed to paying sales tax when I buy my home, but I want my home to be my home. And when I pay off my mortgage, I want the security and the freedom associated with true home ownership. So I'm going to wrap up my part here. I'm going to call up Leonard. Leonard is going to share with you a biblical perspective behind home ownership and property tax and government, frankly. So welcome, Leonard.
Okay.